What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. Happy to be back with you for another golf event. Had the Olympics last week. That was a pretty fun Olympic tournament. Xander Schauffele bringing home the gold medal for the USA. We know Noto's proud of that, so we'll let him talk about Xander here in just a bit. But we'll set the stage for the show here for you first, and then get you set for the WGC event this week in Memphis, Tennessee, the FedEx St. Jude Invitational. And also next year's PGA Tour schedule, the 2021-2022 PGA Tour calendar was released today. So plenty of stuff that we can talk about here throughout the show. Of course, I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84, the host of the program as usual. And we'll bring in my two co-hosts. We got a three-man booth back with you today, and our newest addition to the Rotogrinders family. Happy to bring Mr. Ron Klos into the show. He's been starting to do some work behind the scenes for us on some modeling and projection items, and has a really good Twitter account that's how we noticed him here at RG first. So happy to introduce you, Ron, and why don't you tell the people just a little bit about yourself there?
Appreciate it, guys. Super excited to be here. I kind of grew up watching you guys many years ago, but you guys are one of the best in the biz, and I'm thrilled to be here. So yeah, I played golf, watched golf my entire life. Kind of going back to the pandemic, that's kind of when I kind of started the just building spreadsheets and golf data and golf analytics just kind of are addicting to me. So started building spreadsheets, started the Twitter account, didn't have any expectations at all, and just kind of took off from there. And, here we are. So again, glad to be here.
Yeah, it was fascinating when we started seeing your tweets and stuff that, I just presumed you were somebody else that was already a part of the DFS golf community that was doing it behind the scenes. And Noto just said, hey, I'm going to reach out to him, and super happy to have you on board. And for people who might not be familiar with the data that you've put out there on Twitter or social media, why don't you let the viewers know where they can find you, and see if we can get you some new followers too.
Yeah, it's PGA Splits 101, PGA Splits 101 on Twitter. And I post, I try to come up with stuff that, a lot of people aren't looking at. And so, just, like today, I put something out there for, that kind of going back to 2017, no cut events. A lot of people don't look at things like finish position and all those things. So I just try to gather those together in one spot, and just give people something else to look at and analyze. And so really enjoy it. So,
well, super happy to have you on board and talk some golf here with you tonight. Looks like you're a Michigan Wolverines guy, huh?
Born and raised, go blue.
All right, bring in our other co-host as well, as usual, Mr. Notorious, aka Derek Farnsworth, instrumental in helping bring Ron aboard. So Noto, Xander Schauffele takes home the gold, and we got Ron here with us, and probably a pretty good week for you.
Yeah, good week for sure. Olympics was a great time, but yeah, I love my data, my stats. I've been building my own model for a while now, so I was definitely following Ron's stuff pretty closely on Twitter. I reached out to him, and he was on board, and I can't imagine the number of hours that you poured into those spreadsheets. So love having him on board. We have that new strokes gain tool. It has everything you could possibly want from a statistical standpoint. So make sure to check that out. I believe it's free for everyone this week. So make sure to check that out. And really excited to have you on board.
So we've also got some additional stuff of yours over there at Rotogrinders for free this week for everybody to check out as well too. I don't want to misspeak. So why don't you let me know, or you let the people know what's out there for free of yours this week?
Yeah, so for the first time ever, you can download my model, and all the weights that I use for all the different stats and stuff are included. So you can go through, you can change the weights, you can adjust them to create your own ratings. And then there's a little tab and you can upload those right into Lineup HQ and start building lineups. So my favorite part every single week is, deciding what's important, messing with my weightings, coming up with my own ratings, and then, build lineups from there. So now everyone else can do it as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely download that and check it out. You will have to manually adjust Brian Harmon downward every week.
You do.
If you want if you want your lineups to come out without Harmon in them. But check it out. Lots of good stuff, and we're giving a glimpse of a lot of it for free over there at Rotogrinders. So if you're watching on our YouTube channel or you're watching on the podcast feed after the fact, be sure to check out those tools. We think you'll really like them, and then hopefully some of you guys will want to access everything going forward, and happy to offer you a premium subscription as well. And as usual, we'll have Devin, our producer, throw the link in the chat. You can get $10 off your first month of either combo premium, which includes basically everything except NASCAR, or single sport premium. You can pick and choose the sports that you want. Flexibility is yours to choose what you want to sign up for with your Rotogrinders premium. And as always, later in the show, we'll play our Guess the Golfer game and give away a free week to somebody in the YouTube chat that's checking us out live. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but plenty of golf to get to. We've got a short field again this week, 66 golfers again for the WGC. So we'll be able to make up some time and get through it. But Ron, how'd you enjoy the Olympics tournament last week?
Well, I'm a night owl, so I loved having golf on at nighttime. So I'm sure y'all would agree the coverage was amazing. I've never seen so many golf shots in a 8-hour window in my life. So it was better than I thought it was going to be. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, it was. And, the course played pretty easy, but it was still, it was in great shape, and lots of golf on TV. I did not stay up on Sunday morning with the big playoff for the bronze medal, and that was just too late for me. But saw the chaos that involved 5 or 6 golfers there in the playoff when I got up, and definitely was a tournament that I think the organizers have to be happy with the way it turned out. And you knew somebody was just going to go low there on Sunday without regard. If you're 5th place and 50th place, didn't really make much of a difference. So you saw a lot of those guys attack some pins, and it was Rory Sabatini that ended up making the big move up the leaderboard. And Noto, I got to give you some props. You called it last week on the show, getting the eligibility to bring home a medal for, just to play in the Olympics and bring home a medal for his country. And he was only about 2 or 3% owned, depending on the contest you were in. So did you play any Sabatini last week?
So I only did 2 lineups, and he did not make my final cut. And if I wish I would have had him on Sunday. I mean, that showdown score was probably incredible. I think him and CT Pan shot like a 57 in a best ball, which is just incredible. And then to see CT Pan kind of outlast everyone in that 7-man playoff, it was really cool to watch. I love the primetime coverage. I love that it started from the second that the first group teed off, and the coverage went until everyone was done. Even at the majors, you don't really see that. You have to go, watch some online, watch some on ESPN, watch some on Golf Channel, whatever it may be. But we got nonstop coverage. Like Ron was mentioning, they showed a ton of golf shots, which was cool. And there's something about, everyone just fighting for 3 prizes that really, brought out the best in the competition. There's no difference between 4th and 60th because there's only 3 medals. So I thought it was awesome. I do think, eventually more big name golfers are going to want to play in the Olympics. I think the next one's in Paris, and then the next one's at Riviera in 8 years or 7 years. So I think that's going to be fun. I think a lot of big names will start to make this more part of their, schedule, and a goal of theirs to win a medal.
Yeah, well put. It was definitely a fun tournament, and congrats to anybody that won some DFS money last week. It was I was telling Noto before the show, the first time in like 5 years that I did not put a DFS lineup in. Just figured it was a good week to reset and take a little break and come back refreshed and ready for this week. Yeah, hopefully that'll pay dividends. So no DFS losses or winnings for me last week, a big old 0. We'll see if we can get back on track here this week. So All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention to this week's tournament. That's the WGC-FedEx St. Jude in Memphis at TPC Southwind. And it's kind of strange. This used to be a full field event, just a normal PGA Tour event, and then it got shifted to a WGC event. And with the new schedule that came out for next year, it's going to be the first event of the playoffs next year. So they just kind of keep shifting this around. But for now, still a WGC with 66 golfers in the field this week. And really strange, if you look at some of the patterns at this course, you see a lot of guys that have really consistently strong course history, to where maybe, if you're a course history person, if you like seeing strong, steady course history, there'll be a lot of names that come into the mix for that this week. So Ron, what do you think of the course and the types of golfers that we need to either target or maybe avoid in data that you've put together this week?
Yeah, well, it's a very intriguing course. Obviously, I'm sure most people have heard by now the most water balls out of any course on tour. So we've got 5 holes off the tee where water comes into play. We've got 9 holes where on approach shots where water comes into play. So it's a little bit similar to TPC Twin Cities a couple weeks ago. It just flipped a little bit. The more of the danger this week is on the approach shots as far as the water goes. You got over 90 bunkers, 11 dog legs. I don't know, that might be the most on tour. So a lot of dog legs. We've got tight fairways. The rough here is Bermuda, and pretty everything I've read and actually learned over the years, even living down here in Texas, that grainy Bermuda rough is even though it's not deep, it's only 2.5 inches. It's tough to chip out of and tough to hit those iron shots if you miss the fairway. So I definitely think off the tee approach. You've probably heard it a bunch already, but ball striking is really going to be huge this week. So.
All right, Noto, what do you think of the course this week, and are you putting more value on some of that course history here?
Yeah, definitely agree with everything Ron mentioned, and it's a par 70. It's 7,233 yards, and that doesn't seem that long on paper, but par adjusted, it's one of the longer courses that they're going to see on the PGA Tour. So you are going to get a lot of mid to long irons. As Ron mentioned, the fairways are pretty tight off the tee. And the rough's going to be tricky to hit out of. So a lot of dog legs. I don't think you're going to be able to overpower this course. Hitting fairways is a little bit more important than raw distance, in my opinion. If you want to look at, strokes gained off the tee, good drive percentage, whatever it may be. Definitely going to have a good week with the irons. I think 4 of the last 6 winners here led the field in strokes gained on approach. And then I think 5 of the last 6 led in strokes gained tee to green. So this is one of the few courses where you can just load up the bad putters. I think a couple people have won here without gaining strokes on the greens, which is very unusual for a PGA Tour event. So yeah, I'm looking at strong tee to green guys. I'm looking at a little bit of Bermuda putting. And then with it being a no-cut event, I do think you want to target those birdie makers as well. You're going to get 4 rounds, so guys that can outscore their finishing position will make a lot of sense from a DFS standpoint.
All right, let's go ahead and dig in. Noto, I'll stick with you and let you talk about the top golfers. And obviously, Schauffele winning last week. Of course, the narrative is circulating about winning the gold medal, coming back, 14-hour time difference, playing again this week. Certainly, you're going to have a lot of golfers jet lagged after playing the Olympics, and pretty remarkable. This is the first time I think I've seen Xander Schauffele as the lowest owned of the top options in a field. Some of it is, probably that narrative, and he's expensive, but we do have 6 golfers above 10K on DraftKings this week, with Morikawa still at the top, Schauffele, Brooks Koepka, who looks like the chalk, Spieth, DJ, and Rory, all with the 6-figure price tags this week. So, Noto, where are you landing on those guys this week, and kind of the narrative with all the travel for some of these guys?
Yeah, it's kind of funny with Xander. If he would have finished 2nd or 3rd with a decent Sunday, everyone would want to play him this week. But he wins a gold medal, so now nobody wants to play him. I know I kind of started that trend many years ago, along with some others, that you just got to fade the guy that won the week before. But, I mean, he's number 1 in my model. That obviously doesn't take into account travel and motivation and that kind of stuff. So at this ownership, I wasn't planning on playing him, but he's been so consistent. He's been so good. He finally got that monkey off his back. He kind of struggled there on the back nine and finally got the job done. We've seen him, finish second a bunch of times the last couple of years. So maybe he can just turn it on and go on a run here. We know he's great in no-cut events. So I'll probably end up having some of him. Morikawa, I can't think of a course that's better suited for him when it comes to good drives, great iron play. Don't have to be a great putter to contend. So he makes a lot of sense. Brooks obviously has the amazing course history. Does look like he's going to be the highest owned potentially of anyone in the field, which scares me a little bit. I don't think I can get that much, but he's got to win in 2 seconds here. The guys I'll be lower on is going to be Spieth and DJ. DJ just hasn't shown much recently. Spieth, I think I saw one of Ron's tweets about it. Just not great in no-cut events, and Bermuda by far his worst putting surface. He's been awesome the last 6 months, but I'll probably be lower on him. And then for my pivot play, I like Rory McIlroy. He talked last week about the Olympics, doing the 180 on it. He wasn't too excited for him after being there, after experiencing everything. It really just fired him up, and he sounds more motivated than ever, which is something that we've been looking for in Rory. We know he's good on Bermuda. We know he's good in these WGC events. So I kind of like him as a lower on pivot in that range.
He played pretty well last week. Will he keep going without the hat? That probably not.
Did you hear why?
Yeah, he said he needs customized hats, and so because of his head size. So
I understand. A lot of hats look weird on my head because it's so small. I get it.
And so you can sympathize with Rory. So we'll see if he goes back to the hat or if he keeps up the Ollie look this week. But all right, Ron, where do you stand on these top golfers? You're a data guy, so the data versus the narrative on Schauffele this week. Interesting to hear your take on that, and the other guys in the hefty price range on DraftKings this week.
Yeah, just overall with, I think it's 19 players traveling from, from the Olympics in Tokyo to Memphis. I don't know if that's being overplayed a little bit here, but I'm definitely leaning towards favoring players who have rested and who didn't go to the Olympics. So Koepka is my number one. He's, even though it's not a major, this is still a very strong field, and it just seems in no-cut events even, he's in my top 10 for that ranking. And, no-cut events, majors, doesn't matter to me. If the field's strong, he usually rises to the top. And so he's number one. And I think Morikawa is getting to the point here where he's close to an auto play. And like Noto said, a course like this where it's all about ball striking, and he's number one off the tee. He's number one approach. And again, around the green and putting doesn't matter as much here. And, those are kind of his two weaknesses. So it's just kind of setting up for another, I would expect nothing less than a top 5 finish from him again this week. And Xander's my number 3 here. I think you still, with his success in no-cut events, how good he is off the tee, I still think he deserves some merit here, even after winning the gold medal. So those would kind of be my top 3. Definitely fading Jordan Spieth. When I started digging into, just his no-cut event history, and I know he hasn't been good the past 3 years, but even if you go back a little further, he just, for whatever reason, you don't really, these events where it's, birdies, you need birdies to be made here. And, he's more of a grinder at times, and, he's a good scrambler, and Bermuda is also his worst putting surface. So just those are kind of the reasons that he would be my fade here.
Well, this guy's fade Spieth. We're going to get along real well over the next few years for sure. Yeah, interesting take there on the no-cut event history, and Spieth is going to be pretty popular. I think you probably need to take a stand on Spieth and Koepka in GPPs this week. Find one that you want to play, maybe one that you want to fade or go underweight on, because they are clearly going to be the 2 most popular golfers of the 10K plus on DraftKings. Kind of with you, Noto on Rory as a kind of a contrarian option. I think that's interesting this weekend as well, as Justin Thomas, who did finally put together a couple good rounds on the weekend at the Olympics, which is maybe a good sign, and wasn't ever really in the medal contention after the first 2 rounds. So maybe he worked on some things and got some things figured out, and we'll see if he can keep trending in the right direction as we head into the 9K range. And Ron, I'll let you have the first crack at these guys. You've got Oosthuizen, who's been playing really well, of course, pretty much all summer. Daniel Berger, the king of course history at TPC Southwind. You got Scheffler, who's been playing pretty well also, and several other guys kind of bunched in that 9K range on DraftKings this week. So who are some of your favorites in there?
Yeah, my top two here, and I'll be loading up on these two big time, is Patrick Cantlay at 9,300 and Scheffler at 9,100. Cantlay is just so consistent, just across the board. You know, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. Last 6 months, he's third best in this field, tee to green. We know the putter can kind of come and go at times, but I think one of y'all mentioned earlier, you know, putting on this course is much easier than the average tour course. So I'm not valuing that as much. But yeah, so Cantlay for sure. Then you go down to Scheffler, and he just seems he hasn't played in that many of these no-cut events, but when you combine these with his major history, just something about strong fields brings out the best in him. So I really like his game. Just across the board, very similar to Cantlay, very consistent in all areas. So those would be my main two here. And I will take a little bit of Justin Thomas here. He was my main play last week, and eventually he's going to put it together. And so, having come off the victory here last year in this event, his approach game, I'm going to look for him to rebound here. So I will play a little bit of JT as well.
Yeah, I like Thomas for those reasons. And I think those last two rounds last week were pretty encouraging. So on board there. And it's just at 9,200, it's hard not to like Berger with the way he's played here in the past. Noto, I see you have him tagged up as well. So who else are you looking at in the 9K range?
Yeah, absolutely stacked range. I think for single entry, this is where I'll start because I kind of want to get three of these guys in my lineup. If you start in the 10Ks, you're probably going to do, you know, one of those and then one 9K guy. I kind of like the 3 9Ks a little better. Agree on Cantlay, agree on Scheffler, agree on JT. As far as Berger goes, I mean, he's just so consistent. One of those guys that has a high floor, has a high ceiling. I kind of tend to gravitate towards those guys. 2 wins here and a second place here last year. Great on Bermuda throughout his career. Good driver of the ball, good with his irons. So yeah, it's hard for me not to like Berger quite a bit. Then we didn't talk about Louis. Last 6 events: second, third, second, 18th, second, and 8th. You kind of get the feeling he's either going to win or the wheels are going to come off and he's finally going to have a bad week. I'm hoping it's the former and he finally breaks through with the win because it seems like a good course fit for him. It's a little tougher than some of the birdie fests. It's 20th and a 6th place here the last 2 years. So yeah, I like Louis quite a bit. And then, you know, we didn't mention Bryson, Hideki, Hovland. So a ton of big names in this.
Yeah.
match.
Yeah. It's loaded. And, you know, when you consider the question marks at the top end with guys like, you know, DJ, not in the best of form, you know, Schauffele coming off the gold medal with the travel, et cetera. I mean, you can certainly make a case for loading up on the 9K range if you're a little bit more uncomfortable with the top options. And you're also going to get lower owned guys in here like Casey at 11%, Matsuyama at 6%. That's just simply because there are so many good golfers kind of in this price range. So Ron, is there anybody you kind of like in here or want to mention that we didn't talk about a whole lot
in the 9K range?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I just Hideki, you know, I read a quote where he basically said he was exhausted, so I'm staying far away from him. You know, Victor Hovland is obviously a guy who just seems to always be there. When you look at ball striking, I mean, he's 4th off the tee, 3rd approach. You know, you got to have a little bit of him because you just never know when he's going to take down one of these. So Victor would be another one that I'm definitely looking at here.
All right, let's go ahead and move down into the 8K range. I'll let you have first crack at this here, Noto. We've got Finau, we've got Fitzpatrick, we've got Patrick Reed, who nobody has put more miles on the travel odometer in the last month than Patrick Reed, from the Open Championship to the 3M, then kind of surprising late addition to the Olympics when Bryson had to withdraw. So you got Reed in there, Shane Lowry, Webb Simpson, Neiman, Answer, Cam Smith. So again, these are guys who are oftentimes priced in the 9Ks. Reed scares me too much with all that travel, and I never need too many excuses to fade him. So I think I'll be out on Reed this week. But Noto, your thoughts on the 8Ks?
Oh, man, looks like Reed got a late early tea time again. So we're gonna hear it from Justine on Twitter for sure.
She's gonna be really angry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could play Reed, and it just gets the feeling that it's one of these weeks where he's just gonna troll everyone and have a big week. But I won't be on him. This range isn't as strong for me. I like Answer quite a bit. Again, I like consistency with upside. A couple top 20s here. And he's just one of those guys that plays so good on the weekend. So maybe if he can get off to a little bit better start, then he can be in contention. Yeah, I mean, Webb's interesting. He rates out well for me, but just hasn't been playing a ton of golf recently. Popped up a little bit at the Open Championship. Fitzpatrick's usually one of my guys, but it looks like he's going to be pretty popular. The proximity numbers that I'm looking at, he's almost dead last in the field. His approach numbers have kind of tailed off a little bit. So not sure what to do with Fitz. Usually one of my, highest owned guys each and every week. He's got a 6th and a 4th here. So a little bit torn there. Not too high on Finau. Yeah, this is a pretty dead range for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a step down from the 9Ks. I maybe like it a little bit more. Lowry kind of always underappreciated. Finau in single digits is always going to interest me a little bit. Webb Simpson played fairly well at the Open, should be rested. So he's got a couple good finishes here. So I think those guys are okay, but certainly not as excited about rostering them as some of the 9K golfers. So we can X out Tommy Fleetwood since this is back in the States. The last time he's had a really strong finish in these parts has been a while. So Ron, some of your favorites in the 8Ks, who are you looking at?
Yeah, Webb is just severely underpriced to me. I know he's had his struggles lately, but at 8.5 is just too low. I mean, he finished 12th there last year. He was 2nd the year before. He's number 1 in my model in correlated courses. So a great Bermuda putter. And like you said, Justin, he's rested. So I know he's been putting in the work. If you follow his caddy, Paul Tesori, he's been putting a lot of work on his game. And so I love him, my top guy here. I do like Fitzpatrick. I will be overweight on him. He rates out 6th in my entire model. And he's a lot of past quotes here where he basically flat out says that he loves this course. And so, yeah, his approach game is worrisome here. But again, he's got a great course history here. And his off the tee game doesn't completely make up for his approach troubles, but I do like that part of his game. And Answer, you got to go Answer at 8,300. Again, another one of those guys that's just super consistent. I have no worries about him as far as one of the guys traveling over here from the Olympics. Just his ball striking. In my scoring model, he rates out sixth best in the entire field. So great birdie or better player, gives himself a lot of opportunities. So those would be my top 3 in this range.
All right. I think we've covered most of the options in there. Noto, you got any takes on anybody at the bottom end of the 8K range that maybe you didn't mention?
I mean, Connors, if you want to target a ball striker that can't putt, that certainly makes some sense. He did play last week in the Olympics. And I know I said I was torn on Fitz. I'm sure I'll have a ton of him because I can't help myself.
I was going to say, that's as low as I've seen you on him in a long time.
Yeah, I was planning on saying the same thing about Harmon here in a minute, but I'm sure I'll say some good things about my boy. But yeah, I do like the Lowry call. You brought him up a little bit. He feels overpriced, so that's always going to lead to lower ownership. He was 3rd last week in strokes gained approach at the Olympics. Really good irons recently, and 6th place here last year.
Yeah, and if you're playing on Yahoo, he's $1 above the minimum salary, so that's just too cheap. And on FanDuel, he's actually well below the average salary per golfer. So on Yahoo and FanDuel, he's way underpriced. And on DraftKings, he's overpriced, as Noto mentioned, at 8,600, which is going to keep the ownership down. So however you want to slice the narrative, you can make that fit. And I like him in GPPs this week. All right, let's go ahead and move into the 7Ks, which bring about some more interesting names. Lots of tags up in our lineup HQ. Harris English not tagged, but he is the highest owned of the group. Jason Kokrak is also going to have his share of ownership this week. Noto and I have both tagged up Hatton. I think this course is a really strong fit for Hatton's game. Doesn't have the course history that you see with a lot of other guys, but I like the fit. Sergio, Adam Scott, a couple guys that are pretty cheap this week. And then, of course, Noto's boy, Brian Harmon. I'll stick with you, Noto. Who are you looking at in the 7Ks?
Is this the smallest 7K range we've ever had? There's like 12
it's
golfers.
Pretty small.
It's kind of crazy. I know it's only a pretty short field, but usually this range has a little bit more options. Yeah, I like Harmon. Very similar game to Fitzpatrick. He's pretty accurate off the tee, an elite short game. And then if he has a good week with the irons, you expect him to play really well. Hatton's just too cheap. I mean, he's one of the top 10 golfers in the world when he's playing well. I know he's missed a couple cuts recently. They're both on the number at the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. Before that, he had a second at the Palmetto. Really good on Bermuda and really good no-cut events. So I like him. English, I mean, I like him, but I always hesitate targeting guys coming off of a win recently that aren't like superstar talents. We saw him win in January, and then he kind of tailed off for 3 or 4 months. So if he's going to be the highest owned guy in this range, I don't mind being underweight on that. Kokrak makes some sense to me. And then Sergio Garcia, we got to talk about him. He led the field in strokes gained tee to green at the 3M Open, and he finished like T26 or something like that. So just wild. That hardly ever happens, but this course rewards tee to green play. He does have 5 straight top 30s. So maybe this is a week he can finally, be neutral with the field with his putter.
Yeah, small greens here too. So, you're not going to have a lot of 60-foot putts. I like Sergio this week. So with that improving form and the tee to green game being there, I think, and especially the price, I mean, 7,300. He's pretty cheap everywhere. He is min salary on Yahoo. He's 8,600 on FanDuel. That's really cheap. So I'm in on Sergio this week. All right, lots of golfers in this range. Ron, who you like in here?
Yeah, Hatton should be. I mean, he should be at least 8K. I still can't figure that price out like everyone else can't. He's the 13th ranked player in the world here. So, and like Noto said, at Palmetto, he gained 14 shots tee to green in that tournament alone. So, I mean, that was just 6 weeks ago. So pretty mind boggling there. He's also number 6 in no cut events. So these type of no cut contests where he can just go out and try to make as many birdies as he can. I really like him here. Kokrak, he's another guy that just when the fields are tough, he kind of plays his best here. And so I really like Kokrak. Another good ball striker, 10th off the tee, 17th on approach. I do like English a lot here. Kind of to Noto's point, he has 2 top 3s in his last 3 events here. So I'm gonna trust him to kind of keep it going here, especially at that price. I think he's a very confident player right now, and I think confidence, obviously, in golf is huge. He's gained 5 straight events on his approach, which can kind of come and go at times. So that's kind of got me in his direction here. One other guy I'll mention is Billy Horschel at 7-1. Another guy that's well rested, great Bermuda putter. In the last 2 years, he was 25th here last year and then 9th the year before. So I'll take some shots at Horschel at 71.
Yeah, he's played really, really well here. Even if you go back to when this was a full field event, I put that in my article over at Rotogrinders this week. I dug back into his history, even when this was a full field event. So let's see, just got to pull it up here. So yes, 2013, he was 10th. 2014, he was 6th. 2015, he was 8th. He didn't play in 16. 2017, he was 4th. 2018, 51st. So that was the one kind of dud, but that was still a full field event. So he made the cut. And then the 2 additions since it's been a WGC, 9th in 2019, 25th in 2020. So Horschel's one of those guys, kind of like Bubba Watson, tends to play the same course as well. And this is clearly a course that he really likes. So I like Horschel in GPPs this week too. Noto, anything else after hearing those thoughts to kind of round out the 7Ks for you?
Also like Ian Poulter, Ryder Cup year, he's got to make a strong push. He's made 7 straight cuts, all in the top 40. And another guy that tends to play well in these no-cut events.
All right, so let's go ahead and move down to the value. And before we do that, a couple things. I'm going to play our Guess the Golfer segment. So our favorite value play under 7K. There's not a lot. It's a little bit more obvious this week than it has been some other weeks. So you guys don't need to be mentioning, you know, the Scott Browns of the world as the punt golfer of the week. So just our favorite golfer under 7K. It's not going to take too many guesses this week. The first one to get it, free week of Rotogrinders premium access. We'll go ahead and let you guys throw some guesses out there. And while we're doing that, Jim Steele in chat also asking about groups this week. I'll take a quick look here at the weather and see if there's anything standing out weather-wise. But otherwise, I don't really think, you know, Noto, do you think there's any reason to like group together the 9K guys or do anything fancy in lineup HQ with groups because of the way the field is bunched together in pricing?
I think building some teams with 2 10K guys would be interesting, a way to get a unique roster construction. I do think, you know, the popular builds can be 3 9Ks or 1 10 and 1 9. So maybe build a few with a couple 10K guys.
Yeah, weather does not appear like it's going to be a factor. It's not supposed to rain and it's not supposed to be super windy. So otherwise, yeah, you're basically just looking at lineup construction from a salary perspective. And, you know, with only 66 golfers in the field and a no-cut event, leaving some salary on the table, never a bad idea. So don't mind doing that in some multi-entry builds if you're, you know, concerned about duplicated lineups or things like that. So Ron, you got any hot takes on lineup building in general? Or you know, since you're new, haven't gotten a sense for your lineup building tastes and your nuances and the guys you tend to gravitate towards just yet. So we'll have to build that up over time. But what are your kind of general thoughts on lineup construction in DFS?
Yeah, well, for an event like this, I'm going for scores. I know a couple of guys we got coming up here in the 6K range. You know, guys who can get really hot. And so that's kind of what I'm aiming for. One section of my model is called the scoring model, when it kind of bunched together, you know, birdie or better, proximity to the hole, and, you know, a couple other scoring stats. So that's kind of what I like to target in these type of events. But yeah, most of the time I'm taking a balanced approach instead of kind of a top heavy one. So that's kind of my method, especially for this event.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And with everybody getting 4 rounds, you know, getting some of the scores in the 6K range are definitely interesting. We'll go ahead. Still waiting for somebody to guess. Give everybody. We're trying to limit everybody to 1 guess tonight, so I have not seen anybody guess it right on their first guess yet. We'll give somebody, you know, we'll give everyone a chance to do a few more. And then might open it up for a second guess. But all right, so without giving away our favorite guy, that is the winner of the game, Noto. Who are some of your favorite punts this week?
Yeah, hoping you guys can talk me into a couple more. Besides the favorite punt, I only have 4 other guys in my player pool right now. Sam Burns is one guy that can make a ton of birdies, very wide range of outcomes. I kind of like that in a no-cut event. I got Kevin Kisner. He's been playing some good golf, a couple top 30s here. Really good putter on Bermuda. I got Stuart Sink. Really good with the irons. He missed a couple cuts in a row, but pretty good course history here. And then Kevin Na, you just never know. Play 5% of him in MME. He coming off a second place finish. One of those guys that just gets red hot. Anytime you have a par 70, I kind of bump him up a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an iffy range. I'm always a sucker for some Robert McIntyre, even though he never grades out super well statistically. He's had some decent finishes over the last couple of months, and I don't mind taking some shots on him in GPPs. Ryan Palmer would be another guy that he'll fit that scoring notion that he can certainly make some birdies and get hot. So those are a couple guys that I like. Ron, who are you looking at in the 6Ks this week?
Yeah, Cam Davis and Sam Burns are kind of both lumped together for me. I think they're very similar type players, super high ceiling. You know, believe it or not, this is their first ever no-cut event. So just having 4 rounds, you know, they're probably going to have a bad round here or there, but they're both so explosive that this is kind of the perfect type of event for them to play in. And there's really no pressure on them either. You know, they're not really expected to finish too highly here. Ryan Palmer's another one, like you said. He's top 30 in this field in both approach and off the tee. Finished 15th there last year. Stewart Cink, again, the approach game has kind of been his strength recently. He's 6th in the field here. And again, great course history. Even going back to the old St. Jude Classic that was here, he finished 4th 2018, 10th in 2017. So those would kind of be my main ones down in this range.
All right. Steven, the winner with Max Homa in our Guess the Golfer segment, though somebody did guess Herman, which Noto and I talked about him a little bit before the show, that his numbers have looked pretty good the last few starts. So Noto, now that we've got Homa guessed, anything else you want to add on some of those guys down there?
Yeah, Homa top 20 in the field and birdie or better bogey avoidance. I think that's pretty interesting for this price. And then, yeah, Herman, it kind of feels like he's going to be popular. I've heard his name on every podcast so far because he's gained 4.7, 4.3, and 6.8 strokes ball striking his last 3 events. But if he's going to be, decently owned, I think you just fade him.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got him at 3, so that's not very high, but that'll probably creep up if he's getting a lot of buzz. But it doesn't seem like mega chalk, like a Burns level or, some of the guys in the 7K range. So if he's only 5%, then are you still on board?
Yeah, in MME, nothing like single entry 3 max.
Sure. Ron, anybody else you like that maybe we haven't mentioned throughout the show, or anything, any nuggets that stood out as you kind of put your model data together? Anybody that we want to avoid because they're going to hit too many water balls this week?
I'll actually be researching that tonight a little more. So look for that part of the article I'm writing this week for RG. So, but no, just last word on Max Homa. I mean, he's a true boomer bust type player. He's got 4 top 7s this year already. And then I think he's missed, 4 out of his last 10 cuts. So, he's another guy that I think you have to at least take a chance on in some lineups this week.
All right. And I mentioned at the top of the show that the PGA Tour released their full schedule for the following year earlier today. We've got a new event or a new sponsor at Silverado Resort in Napa to kick off the year right before the Ryder Cup in September. Then the kind of October, November swing. They're still not doing maybe as many events in Asia as they did in the past, but the Zozo looks like as of now is still going to be held in Japan, and the WGC HSBC is still going to be held in China. Otherwise, the CJ Cup still being held in Vegas this year. And then kind of your schedule from, say, November, January, February, March is pretty standard. Not a whole lot of changes, though I did mention that this St. Jude Championship is moving to be a playoff event next year. So not sure what they're going to do with the WGC event, if they're just going to scrap it or if it's going to be sponsored, some other event, and it's not on the calendar yet. I don't know. In fact, I'm not sure. Yeah, they've got the other WGCs on here. So Noto, did you see anything on that? You probably haven't looked at this too much yet.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it too much.
Yeah, it's TPC Boston was supposed to be rotating every other year as part of the playoffs, but it's out. So just a few changes, but nothing earth-shattering or groundbreaking. But PGA Tour did tweet that schedule today on their PGA Tour communications at PGA Tour Comms, if you want to check that out. So that's getting the cart ahead of the horse, though. Still plenty of golf to go before we get to next year's schedule. Just not much of a break. The new season always starts right when the old one ends. So that will be here before we know it. But until then, we've got the FedEx St. Jude this week, and we've got the Wyndham next week, and the playoffs will be getting kickstarted. Northern Trust, BMW Championship, and Tour Championship to close out the season. So before we go, as usual, we have to do our prize picks segment. Noto and I have agreed on the picks the last couple of weeks, and this week, just a minor difference. I am not on Louis as much as Noto is, but Noto's picks were, and I think Devin might have the screen share of this, but Rory McIlroy under 15.5 finishing position, Daniel Berger under 17.5, and Louis under 21.5. Those do feel a bit inflated with only 66 golfers in the field. Though I am going to challenge Noto next week. He has to take at least one over. He mentioned he doesn't like taking the overs. I guess he just wants to root for his golfers to do well. But next week we're going to force him to root for somebody who's going to suck to pick an over. So Noto, challenge accepted for next week.
Yeah, challenge accepted. And the guy that I picked the over is going to win, because anytime I make a miscut hot take, which I did this week, for Speed finishing outside the top 25, so that means he's going to play well. Just get ready for it.
Just bet that golfer outright to win. Then
Yeah,
bet
there
the
you
over.
go.
I'm not as big on Louis. It just with all the golf he's played, it just worries me that this might be the week that it crashes and burns. But so from my end, if you want to replay, I like the Rory pick, I like the Berger pick. But maybe Finau under 24.5. That's a pretty big number for him. Or if you want to play the fade on Schauffele, I think his number is 15.5 or 13.5, one of those low numbers to take the over on him. Don't mind that this week. So that's it. That's going to go ahead and wrap up our show here for you this week. Again, another short field, only 66 golfers. So didn't take us quite as long to get through it, but thanks for watching. Enjoyed having Ron aboard, and hopefully you guys enjoyed some of his takes. Check him out on Twitter at PGA Splits 101. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
And you can check out some of his work at Rotogrinders as well. We're going to start incorporating that into our DFS golf content. So onward to bigger and better things, and happy to have Ron aboard. And thank him for joining us this evening. And as always, for our producer, Devin, and for Noto, I am Justin. Have a great rest of your week, and good luck with your DFS tournaments and cash games for the WGC-FedEx St. Jude. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you back here next week. Take care.